There were 3 mass violence events in 12 hours this weekend. You had a shooting in Austin, now being investigated as terrorism, a mass shooting at a Cincinnati music venue, and a fatal stabbing spree on a DC highway. And so starting with Austin, early Sunday morning, you had a gunman opening fire outside of Buford's backyard beer garden on 6th Street, which is one of the most popular nightlife strips in Austin and right near the University of Texas campus. With police identifying the shooter as Ndiaga Diagne. Investigators say that he circled the block multiple times and stopped in front of the bar, turned on his hazards, and just started shooting at people on the patio and sidewalk. He then reportedly drove further down the street, parked, walked back toward the bar, and then opened fire again on foot. Right then, because there was already a heavy police presence in the area, the officers were able to intercept him before he could do more damage.
What the is going on? Jesus Christ! What the?
And ultimately, you had 3 dead, 2 bystanders and the shooter, as well as 14 others being injured, 3 critically, and some of the victims were UTAustin students. Now also, here's where the story kind of gets bigger, right? The shooter reportedly wore a hoodie that read "Property of Allah" and had a t-shirt with the Iranian flag. He also, according to reports, had been posting about support for the Iranian regime and hatred for Israeli and American leadership since roughly 2017, and the authorities also said that they found items in his car that raise even more concerns.
Obviously, it's still way too early in the process to determine an exact motivation, but there were indicators that on the subject and in his vehicle that indicate potential nexus to terrorism. Since it's a matter we're looking at it as a potential matter of terrorism, obviously the Joint Terrorism Task Force is engaged. In terms of specifically what type of terrorism, we're just at this point prepared to say that it was potentially an act of terrorism.
Now, as for any more background, you have reports saying that the shooter first entered the U.S. in 2000 on a tourist visa, became then a lawful permanent resident after marrying a U.S. citizen, and was naturalized in 2013. And with all this, you had Texas Governor Greg Abbott releasing a statement calling it an act that will not define us and warning that Texas will respond with decisive and overwhelming force against anyone who tries to use the Middle East conflict to threaten the state. Right, and all in all, this is actually the biggest mass shooting in Austin in 60 years, which is also why you had, at least as of recording, many people wondering why the president hasn't addressed it. But that then brings us to Cincinnati, where around 1 a.m. on Sunday, just hours before Austin, shots were fired inside of Riverfront Live, a music venue in Cincinnati that was hosting an event. And here, 9 people were injured, 1 critically, 5 were in stable condition at UC Medical Center, 2 were released, and 1 was treated and released at another hospital.
We do not have any further information on the victims or what started this or any information on the suspect or suspects at this time.
Now with this, you had a witness describing hearing shots, then a quick pause followed by screaming and running, saying that she wanted to get out of harm's way but didn't know where the harm was actually coming from. You also had Cincinnati Mayor Pureval thanking first responders, but also being blunt about a bigger problem.
Our laws make it so easy to get a gun in our community that a lot of people have guns. Coupled with the fact that they refuse to deal with disagreements peacefully, to the extent that they not only refuse to deal with disagreements peacefully, but they immediately run to mortal danger. As you can imagine, our law enforcement leaders, our city leaders are very, very focused on what we can do to prevent people from getting access to guns.
And then all of that brings us to DC, where you had a man reportedly stabbing 4 people and a dog with a knife on the Capitol Beltway after what witnesses said started as a road rage incident following a crash on I-495. And here, 1 victim, a 39-year-old woman, she's dead. The dog was also killed. The status of the other 3 victims, that's unknown. And you had a witness telling CNN that he saw 2 cars that were kind of banged up and then 2 people covered in blood while there was a woman trying to stop the attacker, but the man just kept swinging his knife. And then when a state trooper arrived, the man reportedly approached him with the knife and he was shot, with him then taken to the hospital with serious injuries, and he's since been pronounced dead. Right, and actually with this, one of the details that kind of stood out to people is you had the DC Police Department posting on social media that the reports of a mass stabbing incident, they were incorrect, and that the MPD wasn't investigating any matter like that. So you had many wondering how were 4 people stabbed, 1's dead, and it didn't meet their threshold. And as I was going through this news, it was kind of that last part that was a punch in the stomach, but it felt like maybe almost the core thing to all of them. It's not the only thing that matters, but it kind of just stands out that the violence, it's just become routine. And it's also something Cincinnati City Council member Cheryl Long put in terms that are really hard to shake.
Like all of us, I'm heartbroken to witness such a senseless act of violence. But unfortunately, I am not shocked. So many of us in America are in a similar state of unease, not wondering if a shooting like this will occur, but when. The stress, the exhaustion, the confusion, they are constant. That moment when your heart drops because it's happening again is something we're all terrifyingly used to by now.
So, it's important to acknowledge where we are. Don't let it fully get lost in the mess. Understand where the baseline is now. That's how you know where to try to go to get things to a better place. But yeah, we are currently in a situation where we're not left wondering if the next one's gonna happen. It's just when. And with every day as we get closer to the midterms, and even before then to the primaries, we need to understand there is a question that nobody in power seems willing to want to answer. How much more normalized does this get before someone actually does something about it?